Hi everyone, Gabby Pacheco here with TheDream.Us, and today we have the pleasure of talking with Thomas A. Saenz. Tom is the MALDEF president and general counsel, and there's been a lot of questions around DACA. A couple of weeks ago, there was some miscommunication, misreporting on it, and there's still some questions around two key things. What's going to happen to DACA, particularly to work authorization for those who live in Texas? And then the second question is for those that apply for DACA initial applications that have been stalled. We know that there's about 100,000 people that fit in this category, and some folks who are wanting to apply to DACA as first-time applicants and are wondering, are those applications going to ever been processed? So, Tom, can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with DACA?
Sure. As you know, the state of Texas in 2018 began a lawsuit challenging the legality of DACA, and that lawsuit has pretty much ended with the Fifth Circuit's decision in January of this year. Now, there's still some work to be done to implement the decision, but the critical elements of the Fifth Circuit decision are that the forbearance protection from removal aspect of DACA is legal, according to the Fifth Circuit decision. And even though it concluded that work authorization is not legal, it limited that decision to the state of Texas. So that means a couple of things. First, ultimately, Texas DACA recipients will lose work authorization, but the district court below the Fifth Circuit, is still determining how to implement that. It will be implemented over a rolled out period of time. And on behalf of the intervening DACA recipients, MALDEF is arguing for the longest possible rollout of the withdrawal of work authorization. But that does not mean that DACA itself ends in Texas. There would still be protection from removal for Texas DACA recipients, and new applicants, like new applicants everywhere in the country, in Texas could still receive protection from removal. They would not receive work authorization. But with respect to the applicants in the 49 other states, yes, ultimately their applications will be adjudicated and determined. And outside of Texas, they would be eligible both for DACA, the protection from removal, and for work authorization. But when that will occur is still unknown because the district court has to issue an order. According to the federal government, it will not start implementing the adjudication and processing of new applicants until it gets an order from Judge Hainan, the district court judge, and he has not done that yet. And frankly, is unlikely to do it in the immediate term, mainly because, as you know, we are still under a situation of no budget for the federal government, with the result that Department of Justice lawyers are on furlough. So this case is likely to continue very slowly from here, and there's still more briefing and argument to be heard by Judge Hainan before he implements those two pieces. First, deciding how to roll out the withdrawal of work authorization from DACA recipients only in Texas, and second, how to implement the consideration of new applications everywhere in the country for DACA and everywhere in the country except Texas for work authorization. Those rulings will come, but we don't know when.
Thank you so much for that. That was very clear. And one of the things that we keep telling DACA recipients, the ones that have DACA right now, is to continue to renew on time, because we have seen during the first Trump administration a delay in that. But a question that we see a lot from those that are in Texas: what are some suggestions or tips that DACA recipients in Texas should be thinking about? Specifically, knowing that, as you said in the past and just said, the rollout, it's not going to be, in essence, like from one day to the other, right? From night to day, but rather there will be a process. So, what are some things that Texas folks should be thinking about?
I think the Texas folks should be thinking about what they will do once we know the rollout plan. It is clear that if they have current DACA, which means everyone should still renew in Texas, they could move outside the state of Texas and receive work authorization or allow their work authorization to continue. So I expect many Texas DACA recipients will choose to move. But in order to have that option, they need to continue to renew the DACA despite the decision by the Fifth Circuit that if you're in Texas, you would not get work authorization, because having DACA will then be the prerequisite to being able to move. and get work authorization from a residence in another state. And I should say that overarching all of this is the possibility that the Trump administration could decide to roll back DACA in some way. But important to know whether they decide to eliminate it or eliminate new applications, new grants of DACA. To do so, the Trump administration would have to go through a notice and comment rulemaking process, which is a lengthy process where they post their intentions in the Federal Register, invite public comment, and hopefully lots of folks will comment. And only after they've reviewed and considered those comments are they then allowed to take the step that they want to take, whether that's to end DACA or to stop new applications for DACA. Important to note that at least at present, from the federal government's filings in this case, we have no indication that the Trump administration intends to do either of those things. But if it did, it would have to go through a rulemaking process.
Super important to know. And how sad for Texas economy, for the community, right? The brain drain that potentially we're going to see if they do move forward with eliminating um, the work authorization piece of DACA for Texas folks. Now, just to end really quickly, there are also a lot of people who saw news articles and folks saying that DACA, that the government was going to process first-time DACA applications and that people should apply for DACA. One of the things we've been telling folks is that DACA requirements have not changed, that individuals do have to have been here since 2007, have been here in 2012, et cetera, and prove, right, that they have been here ever since. But what should either those that already paid the government, some of them even did biometrics and have had their DACA stalled, and those who never got to even submit an application but are being told submit because the government is actually going to process? Like, what would you tell for those who are in that wait period or want to be able to apply?
For those who want to be able to apply, I would prepare everything. I would not file anything yet, but I would prepare everything so you're ready to file as soon as a plan is put in place after the judge issues his ruling. That reporting that you mentioned earlier was actually misreporting about the plans, the proposed plans that were submitted by the federal government to Judge Hainan in the Texas versus US case. But those were just proposed plans not yet adopted and not yet approved by the district court. So we don't actually know when the implementation of the Fifth Circuit decision that allows new applications to be processed and adjudicated will go into effect. It's just not going to happen tomorrow. As I said, this case is going to move a little slowly until we get out of this situation where the federal government is in shutdown.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for that very clear to the point information on DACA. I always tell people, please go to the source. There's a lot of folks and even sometimes attorneys and experts get this wrong, but I always tell people, have patience. Don't run to the first information that comes out. A lot of times people misinterpret things, and so I really appreciate everything you do. And anything else you want to say about MALDEF or where to get your information on this case and who is the authority on this information on DACA, what's happening with the case?
So MALDEF is the only nonprofit legal organization involved in the Texas versus United States case. We represent intervening DACA students. The other intervener is the state of New Jersey. But you can go to MALDEF's website, maldef.org, and you will find we regularly put updates to a timeline of the US versus Texas case so people are aware of what's going on up to the moment.
Great. And you all are on social media as well, I take, right? I follow you
Yes.
all. Oh, yes, I know that. All right. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.